This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 46.5. Welcome to Comic Geek Speak, episode 46.5, brought to you in conjunction with WorldFamousComics.com, your spot on the internet for the best comic book and entertainment-related columns, contests, features, reviews, news, resources, and more. I'm Brian Deemer.
I'm Kevin Moyer.
I'm Jamie D.
I'm Peter Rios.
We are sexy bitches, yeah!
And we decided that we wanted to do an extra episode this week, and we already have a few episodes in the can, so that's why this one is 46.5.
We're doing it just for you.
That's
yeah,
right.
exactly. They've been complaining on the board.
They whine on the board if it's like been more than like 6 hours since our last episode.
So this is for you. Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Thanks for the pasta.
Hey, you're welcome.
Yes, it was very good.
Yeah, Tasha's away tonight working late, so I
Muy bueno.
cooked up some quick pasta because we got met early tonight, so no one had a chance to eat.
Right.
Yeah, no
Muy
big
bueno.
deal.
Muy bueno.
It sucked.
We went.
I'm kidding.
Nice.
That's the
It
last
was
time
good.
I feed you.
Next time you'll be sharing Greta's bowl.
That's right.
Well, right now it's better than Eli's bowl. That's all.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately for Eli.
A reminder that our August book of the month is The Walking Dead Volume 1 trade paperback by Robert Kirkman. And you can get that, if you would so choose, on InStockTrades.com for a special reduced discount of 40% off. So it's only $6. And if you're so inclined, you can also get Volumes 2 and 3 also for 40% off. So big thanks to InStockTrades.com for making that possible. And also our August contest, which you'll have to have your entries in pretty soon, is I completely lost my train of thought, is to have produce a segment that covers manga news or anime news, and because we hope to have 2 semi-regular features on the show, so the winner of that contest gets to produce a segment for us. So, yeah.
Cool.
And with back to the book of the month, if you have anything that you want to say about it, a geek of the day, if you just want to send some emails, some thoughts our way that we can read during that special episode, please do.
Yeah, I've gotten 2 comments so far, so
Great.
we hope it'll be nice to have 2 or 3 more. It'd be great.
Yep.
Can
I give a shout out quick?
Oh, you sure can.
I'd like to give a big thank you out to everyone. I don't know if people have noticed, but I put a request on the forum about supporting my Bowen design statue for Moon Knight with getting it correctly painted, or painted correctly. My English is not the greatest. It has made a difference. I don't know what the extent of it is, but I do appreciate everybody's support and discussions and comments, and whether you liked it or didn't like it, it doesn't matter. It's just nice that people are interacting and voicing their opinions and taking a little bit of time to go register and express their opinions, whether it be for my support or not. But I do appreciate that, so I wanted to give a shout-out to everyone who has, and thank you so much.
Cool.
You go ahead, Peter.
We want to give another shout-out to Mike Parkinson from Down Under for the fabulous, just absolutely amazing
Knocked us on our
caricatures that he's done for us.
Just knocked us on our
yeah.
ass.
Brian pulled it up, and literally the whole room we just erupted with pleasure.
Frozen in time. We didn't know
Yeah.
what to do. It was so amazing to see what popped up on the screen. It was just wonderful.
His handle on the forum is MeLike, and he does the year1spiderspawn.com.
Which if you're not going to and reading, go to
Yeah,
and
It's
read.
amazing.
It's
He does such a
hysterical.
beautiful
It's
job.
fun.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
great thing.
If you liked any of the what was it that Marvel used to put in the
And
little
the bullpen.
those little bullpen things with
Comic
little
strips.
little kid strips, this is so much better and so much better.
But it's along that line. So
yeah,
you can
but
get
it's
an
definitely
idea.
along that line. So go and read that. That's
And
I'm
it's
I
6 days a
command
week.
you.
He does
Yeah.
it 6 times a week.
Sundays in color, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll be revealing, what he drew for us
Yeah,
eventually.
I'll put them on the blog.
Right. And but it's just as geeks and as fans of what he's doing, it's absolutely incredible.
Frecking swear.
It's freaking
Yeah,
scary.
I mean, there's just no other way to describe it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just blown away. As soon as they popped up on the screen, it's just completely blown away. And then Brian pulled up the one with us in costume, which
Yep.
just
Oh
took
my
us to the
God.
next level. I mean,
Yes.
it was just amazing.
It's just amazing.
Beautiful stuff.
So
Thank you so much.
Thank
Mark.
you so,
really
so,
appreciate
so
it.
I have an ear to ear smile, and I'm just thinking about what it looked
I
like.
know.
It's not even up right now.
I know. It's great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing.
And, well, I guess the main reason for our episode today is because we have with us on the phone the ever-talented Brian Miller from HiFiDesign.com. He colors comics. Currently, he's working on Birds of Prey every month, and he just did the OMAC project for DC, which is a real high-profile comic. And he does covers for Strangers in Paradise and a whole bunch of other stuff.
And the Marvel Age Spider-Man stuff he's been working on too.
So we're going to go now to him on the phone. And all right. So, Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
This is very exciting because you are the first industry professional who emailed us out of the blue. So you'll always have a special place in our heart.
Yay.
I'm here with Kevin, Jamie, and Peter.
What's going on, guys?
Hello.
Hi,
Nothing
Tom.
much. How you doing?
Doing good. Just working on some stuff for Star Wars Insider today. Having fun with that.
Cool.
What are you doing?
Just some spot illustrations. They were penciled by the awesome Joe Caroni. If you're familiar with him, he's a great Star Wars artist. And kind of painting them up for him today.
Cool.
All right. Well, our first question, Brian, is always our first question is, how did you first get into comic books?
I kind of fell in with a penciler right after high school, and we got into like a little self-publishing thing. And I was young and stupid and didn't know you couldn't color comics on a computer. So that's how I did it.
Were you a comic book fan before that, or was that your first?
I think, a born-again comic book fan, so to speak. Like, when I was younger, as a kid, I read comics, a lot of DC stuff, a little bit of Marvel stuff. And then I went through that phase sometime, I don't know, in middle school maybe, where I just kind of thought maybe I'd grown out or forgot about comics. And then after high school, I met this artist, and it kind of reignited the spark, I guess.
Cool. So, were you ever a Marvel guy or a DC guy, or were you neutral?
I guess I probably lean more towards the DC stuff. I always liked Batman, and I always liked the kind of the backup stories with like Green Arrow and Canary and Metamorpho, and kind of some of the secondary characters maybe appealed to me more than the main characters.
So coloring Birds of Prey is kind of makes you really happy, huh?
Oh yeah, I mean there's so many characters that come through that book. It's just like being 7 or 8 years old again, and getting to dig in and go, oh, there's Metamorpho, there's Batman, there's Superman, Canary, whoever. It seems like they've always got a guest star every couple of issues and something to keep it fresh.
Cool.
Brian, does it motivate you more? Like, you have more motivation when you're doing a book that, like DC, if you're a DC fan, that you find yourself more motivated and excited about coloring that more so than something that is something that you're not more of a fan of?
Wow. Well, as far as motivation goes, I think I'm neutral on where the art's coming from, but it's more about how well is the story written? Do I like where the story's going? Is the editor cool to work with? Does the art interest me? That type of thing. So what I try to do is, some people that color just like, this is my style, and I'm going to color every book just like this. And I have a different approach. I tend to read the script, look at the art, and say, what is it that this project wants from me? And then try to go down that path. And I think that keeps it interesting and keeps me motivated, because I know that every project is going to be different and have a variety, and I'm going to try to do something different with it myself.
Cool. Now, you said that when you started, you didn't know that you couldn't color comics on a computer, so that's the way you did it. Have you always done that, or have you ever done traditional like watercolor coloring or any other method, or have you always been strictly on the computer?
Well, of course, I learned to paint at a young age, and I think I was fascinated by, Bob Ross and William Alexander on public television, and so I, begged my parents to give me, like, watercolors and oil paints, and I just always thought I was going to be a painter or an artist of some sort, and even later on, my education is in traditional painting. But somewhere in high school, I was working for the high school paper and the yearbook, and they got this fancy Mac lab with all these computers, and I'd always been sort of afraid of technology, and these things were here, and started playing around and doing stuff, and then by the time I hooked up with Captain Crafty was the name of the first book I was involved with, the small press book. I was just really comfortable on the computer, and I thought, well, that's the way to do it.
Do you use Photoshop?
I do use Photoshop. I have occasionally used Painter for a few projects here and there, but I would say 99% is Photoshop, and that seems to be what Marvel and DC and all the publishers like as well.
Are there things that you can accomplish with your coloring on the computer that you would not be able to do if you were doing a traditional media?
I guess that's true. There are things you could accomplish. I guess if you were using watercolor or oil paint or even doing mechanical separations like they used to do, 20 years ago, you would maybe accomplish it a different way, or it might not look exactly the same. I think, what comes with having a new set of tools like Photoshop is the ability to use those tools to make the art better or the color better in a way that it doesn't distract from the story. So I like to joke about people who are members of the Lens Flare of the Month Club.
Can you say that again? I didn't hear it.
The Lens Flare of the Month Club.
Oh, the Lens Flare, yeah, exactly.
So, when Photoshop first came out and people started to get their hands on it, you would see a lot of these generic, computer-generated effects show up, and I think we're all guilty of it. A new plugin or a new filter or something would come out, and you'd play with it, and if you learn to use it just like it was another, paintbrush in your art box, that's fine, but if it becomes where you're just pushing the button all day, it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah.
I have a question. With the advent of computer coloring, you really get into shade, different tints and washes of color. Is coloring now kind of blending into almost what inkers used to do, where you would have the inkers create the shadows on a face or delineate curvatures in the jaw and things like that. But now coloring is doing that as well. Now, is that something that starts from the penciling, or is that something that, as a colorist, you throw in, or is it just a mixture of both and depends on who does it?
That's a really good question, and I think you're right about that. That especially, I think, as computer coloring kind of became the mainstay, say 1995 or so, the art itself sort of changed. I remember being on X-Men and Uncanny X-Men and seeing the art become more open and the inking become less shadow-heavy to where, we as colorists were doing a lot of the light and shadow calls on our side. And I think that fluctuates now. I think there's a lot more variety than there was, for a while. But it definitely means my number one concern when I get in a book or a project is the light and shadow, and that's kind of what I preach to people when I talk about coloring, is that, it's the color palette, the things that you put down in color is kind of, they expect, the editors and whoever, they expect that to already be good and tasteful and look right. It's what you bring to the table in terms of lighting and shading and where's the light source coming from and how does Green Lantern's ring affect the world around him, and all these little intricate things is sort of what separates the good colors from the lesser colors.
Yeah, because I have some of your books in front of me. I'm looking at the OMAC #1, and there's heavy inking, and it's not even that it's I don't know the terminology, but it's like solid shadows on faces and things like that. But then when I look at your chapter in Countdown, the second chapter, some of the stuff is a little more open. And your coloring the coloring in that is actually what's helping to create some shadows and things like that. So I guess I see right there, in these two books alone, it's almost like one extreme to the next.
Yes, definitely. I think every artist brings something different to the table, and my job is to adapt to that and hopefully complement that and not take anything away from it.
One of these, I don't remember who it was, but I'm going to steal the question. Somebody said we should ask you if books that are printed on different kinds of paper affects the choices you have as a colorist.
Yes, definitely. The newsprint paper is like a sponge. It's the only way I can describe it. So without getting too technical, the range of color choices is much more limited than on a glossy paper stock or a matte paper stock. So especially colors like reds and purples, you have to kind of think ahead and plan ahead so that when it hits that paper, it prints correctly and doesn't turn to mud.
So we have a running thing every now and then where we talk about the industry and how we can find ways to cut costs and things like that. And one of our things that we always say is about the paper quality in a book. And from what I guess I'm hearing from you is that would definitely be a step backwards as far as coloring would go, correct?
I don't know if it's a step backwards or not. I think that colorists who color for newsprint, like DC would use, or a paper called Mando that Dark Horse is fond of, have to have actual printing and pre-press knowledge to prepare the final color separations to print correctly on that paper. And what's happened over the years is fewer and fewer colorists have that technical expertise that you used to have 10 years ago. So, it's just easier, I guess, for a lot of people to go, well, let's just slap that down on some glossy paper and it's going to look pretty good. To better answer your question, I think you can achieve just as good results on newsprint. It just takes a little bit more knowledge and a little more time.
Yeah, that makes sense. I have a follow-up question, also dealing with not the technical side of it, but with the advent of all these late books. I don't know where they start. Is it the writer? Is it the artist? But as it trickles down to the inker and the colorist, that's got to give you less time to finish your end of it. Now, have you ever been in that situation where you got that late book and you just had to do what you had to do? And what do you feel about that as a colorist?
Well, if you said, have I ever been in that situation, I would say every day.
Yeah.
The best story I can tell is when I got my first professional gig. I'd been coloring a lot of independent press, small press, and sending out my samples to everybody. And one day, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I get a call, and it's Rob Liefeld on the phone. And I'm very excited to hear from somebody who's famous. And he says, we've got, I don't remember, it was 6 or 8 pages of Cable, issue 75. It was a big anniversary deal. And he says, we've got your samples here, and we can tell you can do the style. And I've got 8 pages, and I'm going to need them before morning.
Oh my God.
And of course, I'm not going to say no, so I do it, and it gets turned in, and it's okay. And the next month, the editors from Marvel call, and they say, hey, we like what you did. Do you want to start coloring Cable? And, that was kind of where my professional career started. But flash forward however many years, and it's still like that. I mean, there's nothing I can do to complain about it or anything, because as colorists, we're the last stop, and sometimes it's frustrating, but you just do it and deal with it and learn that you can't always have your weekend or your nights off.
So, just to like a follow-up to this, why is it becoming acceptable? Why are late books becoming acceptable? You may not have an answer, but why is it more and more nowadays it's being allowed? We toss this back and forth all the time. So do you have any thoughts on that?
I ask myself that every day. Christy and I ask ourselves that. Oftentimes it'll come down to where, we're coloring a book in, 48 hours or maybe 3 days or something, and I want to do my best work, and sometimes I feel like I'm not allowed to do that. On the other hand, if I say I don't want to do this, there's 10 other people waiting to take the job. So for me, it's just part of my reality. I don't know, where in the chain it was decided it was okay for that to happen. And all I can do is, get the book done, put the deadline the editor gives me, and hope that next time there's they give me a couple extra days on it.
Right. Okay, cool.
Seems to be pretty consistent. I know from the few projects I've worked on myself is the same thing. I mean, and it was all independent press stuff, and it was always being sent to me like on a Sunday night after midnight, so I'd get it in my email Monday morning, and I'd call up and say, when's it due? And, oh, I need it by Tuesday morning so we can have it in previews, And,
Exactly.
and I've done it already. I've taken off of my full-time job, the job that makes me money, that supports my life, and I've knocked off work and stayed home and colored, and the reason why I did it was because, just like you said, when you're doing something, you want to put out the best work you can put out. And I had a good talk with an editor about that once. He was like, I'll keep shoveling you stuff, and you can keep doing it, and at least you're getting your name on stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not my agenda. I don't want to just throw stuff out just so I can have a name published in a book. It's to me like I was kind of opposite of your background, as I started as an artist and did more penciling and inking, and then found out just after I got Photoshop and started working with it, and I was doing my own little things just to appease myself, and then I got stumbled into the colorist part of it, so now I'm doing more of that than anything, and I found that by doing that, it's a form of art, and when you as an artist want to do it, you want to put out the best work that you can put out, and there's no excuses, more or less, and you're willing to do that, and it is frustrating. Especially if you're doing it full time and it's constantly being done to you like that, it's frustrating to have to handle that every time you got a project coming up, and it's hard to fathom people doing that, and that's why I think it's important that people understand and hear about that, because I don't think people really understand that that's how the process is.
Yeah, I totally feel your pain, and I don't know, I guess I just don't want to be negative, but I know exactly what you're saying, and I deal with it. I guess I feel that anyone who's working in comics and making a living from it, hey, we're lucky to do it. I wish that, I had, even 10 days to color a comic book would just be a luxury at this point, but I get to have fun. I feel like, most of the time I'm working for, it feels like working for a big movie studio. You're working on a superhero book, whether it's an X-Men or a Spider-Man or, Batman, whatever, and then occasionally Vertigo or somebody calls, and that's kind of like going to work for Miramax for a film or something. You get to go and explore some different creative places, and then, I do my own work. I do, paintings and illustrations and things I want to do, and hopefully when the sum of all those things comes together, it's representative of who I am as an artist.
When you most of the art that you get is generally inked art, or do you get some stuff as well that's just penciled?
I would say 65-75% is inked, and the rest is either pencils or pencils that the publisher wants modified to have somewhat of an appearance of being inked.
Which do you prefer to do?
It depends. I really like like OMAC right now. Some of that is pencils with real ink on it. It's kind of a multimedia, and it's just totally fun to work with. And I don't know that I have a preference one way or the other. I think it depends on the artist and the penciler and the inker and what they have to bring to the table. And if it's exciting and it looks cool, then that's what's important, I guess.
Is it more work for you to do a penciled page rather than an ink page?
It can be. I think it just depends on how open the artwork is.
Uh-huh.
I've done some projects that are like, anime, manga style, where maybe it's really open and the pencil line is really thin, and you're just doing so much to create the light and the shadow in
right.
the rendering that it can take a long time. And then there's other times where the penciling is, there's some nice graphic shadow in there, and it's not time consuming. So to me, again, it's just, does it look cool? Does it not look cool? And if the artist did something cool with the medium that they were using, whether it's pencil, ink, or both, then that's awesome.
Right.
I'm assuming you're done with OMAC Project by now?
No.
No?
It'll come out on time, hopefully.
Oh, so okay, so they're interesting.
Peter was going to have
Anything
to call
you want to spoil? No, I'm
Peter
kidding.
was going to call you later to get the scoop, I think.
What are you reading nowadays? Are you reading any comics, or what are you enjoying nowadays?
I try to read. I'm definitely guilty of knowing more about the projects I'm working on than stuff I'm not working on.
Sure.
I do like a couple of black and white books, which people always find shocking.
That's your downturn. I mean, you can't be supporting black and white books. You'll run yourself out of a job.
But an artist is an artist, and good art looks good art, you know?
I'm very fortunate that the two people who make these books now have me color their covers, so it seemed to work out. But it's Strangers in Paradise by Terry Moore and Jane's World by Paige Braddock. I think they're both brilliant comics. I enjoyed those. A lot of Vertigo stuff. And, still the superhero stuff. Unfortunately, I just don't follow, like, a single title like I used to, and that's me needing to make time to catch up on my reading.
Have you pitched any companies in particular because you enjoyed the book in hopes that you could work with them?
I don't know if it really works that way for me or not. I can't really think of a time that I was like, hey, I want to work with you because you did this cool story or not. I think, for me at least, I just tend to make friends at conventions and have relationships, and those people maybe go on to become pencilers or editors or whatever, and then we kind of, continue to work together just in a way that is seen by the public. So, I don't know, a good example of that would be like back in the day, Robert Kirkman did a thing called Double Take, and I wrote a story for that called Tommy Trek, and my friend Mike Worley penciled it, and then I did the painting for it. And then now, Robert's doing his big thing in Marvel, and we haven't worked together in Marvel yet, but who knows what'll happen. So I think I have relationships with people, and sometimes, they go from being small press things to bigger things.
So it's all about who you know.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, definitely. For me, it's like, I just want to work on cool projects. And so, if an editor calls me and it sounds like something I'm interested in, then I'm on board. And if it sounds like, hey, how can you color this like liquid graphics, then I tend to get tuned out pretty quickly.
I know you might be slightly biased towards the answer to this question, but do you ever feel that sometimes the color can make or break a book, or I should say, if you ever see a book that is colored in your opinion pretty poorly, does it really distract you and you say, this book could be a much better book if only the emotion and the atmosphere was different because of better coloring?
I would say for me personally, yes. And I won't mention any books by name, but there's some books I've seen. I go, oh man, that should have been really cool, but it's not. But if I talk to, I'll say the average fan, not that there really is, but what I would say the average fan, they just, maybe noticed it, maybe didn't. But I've also heard from other editors before where, like, oh, this book, it was going to get canceled after issue 5, but the coloring was kind of able to save it, and, kept it going for another year. So, I mean, I think there's truth to that both ways, that there's definitely books out there where the color saves it, and there's other books out there where the color is a letdown. Hopefully, if the story's good enough, it can overcome those things. And then when it comes to doing it, when it's in my project, I just try to do the best I can, and hope that I'm not the one where someone goes, oh gosh, I sure wish that looked better.
Hey, can I pull you right out of comics and ask you what's your favorite Depeche Mode album? I saw it on your website.
I guess Violator, because, that was kind of the time in my life where I discovered girls. I think you always remember that music.
Yeah.
Well, that album is just... Yeah. I'm a huge Depeche Mode fan. I have all of their albums, and Violator is, I think, by far their best album.
That's a gem in the collection,
right there.
sure, yeah.
So, we support that opinion fully.
Well, I've got an interesting story about that. Christy, my wife, and I we won free tickets to Depeche a couple years ago, and went, and they were nosebleed, and we saw some girls walking around. They had a I Heart Depeche license plate, and we started talking to them, and they said, oh yeah, we got upgraded to backstage passes, you can have our tickets, and so we got right on the floor, so it's awesome.
That's awesome.
Let's ask the Hi-Fi Design 8-Ball. Is Violator the best Depeche Mode CD album? Let's see what we get. Oh, it says unlikely. What's with this thing?
It's rigged.
Speaking of the Magic 8-Ball, are you still taking pledges for your MS-150 challenge, Brian?
Yes, I am.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd like to throw out a challenge to the listeners that maybe after this podcast comes out, the first 5 listeners who pledge $20 or more, you can let me know, and we'll hook them up with some Hi-Fi swag.
Oh, that's awesome, Brian.
That's great.
I really, really appreciate that. That's
Very cool.
fantastic.
Wow.
Of course, you'll be receiving a pledge from us as well.
Oh, excellent. I have been absolutely overwhelmed by the generosity of the audience. You know, when I put it out there originally and I said, you know, send $1. To this day, I still have not had a person donate only $1. Every pledge has been for $5 or more, and the average has been about $20. And one of our listeners gave $100, which just, you know,
Amazing.
It almost makes me teary-eyed because they don't even really know us, and they're supporting me in this way, and it just means so much. So I really appreciate this challenge. It's awesome.
All you listeners out there, step up.
It has, you know, we were talking about your work and everything. Has there been anything you've turned down that you look back and you go, damn it, why didn't I do that?
You know, I mean, there's things that come and go, and people, you know, are like, hey, how much would you want to do this or do that? And, you know, it maybe doesn't seem like anything at the time, and then like 2 years later, you know, you see the book out. But I don't have any regrets. I have fun with every project that comes my way, and hopefully I just can add a little something to it.
Can you give us a list of what you're doing right now, and maybe what's coming up that people can go and seek out?
Certainly. Birds of Prey, monthly. If you're not reading it, you're missing out on one of the best written books in comics. Gail Simone is amazing. OMAC. Is issue 5 on the stands yet? You guys know?
No, it's only up to 4.
Okay, well, 5 is in the can, I know, and
Right.
6 is coming shortly. So, check that out. Marvel Megamorphs is, I think the first one's already out, and we're coloring that miniseries. And some Marvel Age Spider-Man stuff. So check that out. And, of course, do the covers for Strangers in Paradise and Jane's World. And we're always doing stuff for Peanuts and Popeye and Betty Boop and that type of thing, so be sure to check it out. And I'm really excited about a project we're doing with Lerner Publishing, and they're doing graphic novels of a lot of the classic stories like Hercules and Trojan Horse, King Arthur. They're not out yet, but we're working on them right now, and I know that Lerner's going to have those out next year. And they're just these big graphic novels of these classic stories, and I think everyone will really enjoy them.
Cool.
Is there a dream project, like a book, a specific book or a character that you would be like your ultimate thing to get a job to color that?
Well, I've never been on like the real Batman title, and being such a big Batman fan, I think that would be really cool. But I mean, obviously I got to color Batman in different projects, but that would be pretty cool. I think that's kind of, for me, the pinnacle. I mean, I got really fortunate starting out on Cable, Wolverine, X-Men, like right off the bat, and talk about a learning experience. You know, I got thrown into the deep end on that. So now that I'm doing, I don't want to say mostly DC stuff, but just happen to be doing a lot of DC stuff right now, I think Batman would be a really sweet title to be on for a while.
I'll tell you what, after we hang up here, I'll call Dan DiDio for you and see if I can make that happen.
Use some of our pool.
I wish I could do that for you. I don't have his number on speed dial. I must have lost it. I don't.
Let's ask the Hi-Fi Magic 8 Ball. Will Brian Miller work on a future Batman book? Oh, wait. Trying to read it. Contact me later. What's with this thing?
It's in the shower.
Thank you, Hi-Fi 8-Ball, for nothing.
Maybe it's the energy of the user.
Yeah, it's hit and miss, probably.
Hey, before we heard from you initially, I will admit that I was one of the people who didn't pay extra special attention to the color. I think probably most of us are guilty of that because the industry doesn't seem to ever draw attention to that. But after your email, it made me think about it because I thought, wow, if I'm going to talk to this guy, I got to pay attention. And then I started realizing that most pages just have so much detail on them. It completely blows my mind that you can even ever finish a page. And then you're talking about this deadline, and it just amazes me that it ever gets done. And so I guess my question is, how much of it is your your experience and how much of it is your mastery of the software that allows you to accomplish such incredible work in such a short period of time?
Well, I think you were talking about the colors not being recognized, and I think that goes back to like the 1940s when the publishing started, that coloring was just seen as a purely mechanical. It's like sitting out to get your dry cleaning done. Let's sit down and get the coloring done. Unfortunately, there's still quite a few people in the industry that see it that way. You would think with some of the amazing, talented colorists that are out there right now that people would recognize it for the art form it really is. Maybe that'll happen. Who knows? As far as the software and experience, I think they go hand in hand. I mean, to me, Photoshop, again, it's just a tool. It's no different than painting or, penciling or anything else. If you get comfortable with the tool and learn what you can do with the tool and what the tool can do for you, then you can achieve some really nice results. And with experience, you certainly learn what is really going to print on the page and what things you need to pay attention to and add detail to, and what places where detail isn't going to make any difference. And that can help when you're on a deadline crunch.
I guess with the recognition aspect of it, I mean, it's almost to the point now where the colorist adds so much more to the book, but yet they're still not credited, as the writer, penciler, and inker is, and that I can understand could be kind of disheartening in a way, because without it, if they would see, pardon me, if they would see the art without it, it would be a total different. I've seen that in quite a few instances with other colorists, that you see the black and white and then you see the printed page, and it's an amazing difference.
It's like almost what he said earlier. The pencil art probably would look flat.
Exactly. I mean, it's the same aspect of, an inker can break a penciler. You could have a great penciler and an inker could come on and destroy it, Whereas you're seeing with the process of the coloring that's done now compared to what it was before, it's become such a major component in the work that it's accepted but not recognized. Do you look at it that way as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the misconception is that there's a magic color button that we push because it's on computer. They're like, oh, you just push the color button, and what I do and what other colorists do, even though we're using Photoshop, it's still a drawing tablet, and we're still making brush strokes just like if it was a paintbrush or an airbrush or color pencil or whatever. So the talent and the artistry have to be there to do good coloring, regardless of the tool.
So you're not just using the fill button, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
I know, and it's like when I've been to conventions in the early '90s, I used to see Tom Smith, set up at Artist Alley all the time, and every time I see him, nobody be talking to him, and it's like, I would go up and talk with him about it even before I was even interested in coloring, and just to talk to him, because I guess I kind of recognize that aspect, that without the color, it's a much different look, much different feel. And I mean, not every book needs color. There's some art that looks great black and white, even with using a wash.
What we're driving at is that it's a collaborative process, and if I'm a colorist and I jump up and down and say, look at me, then I'm just being obnoxious. But if I say, hey, this penciler is awesome and this inker is awesome, and I'm also trying to bring my best work to the table, and the three of us together, along with the person who wrote the story in the first place, are trying to provide the reader with a great piece of entertainment. And if we're successful, then it would be nice if we're all recognized equally. And I think a lot of colorists really can get bummed out and burned out just based on the recognition factor. And it should be so easy, because all the publisher has to do is say, hey, good job, we appreciate what you did, and everybody's going to work 10 times as hard. And the way that the things are now, it kind of becomes frustrating for a lot of people. And you have to have a good mental attitude to just get in there and do your best every time.
From the various books that you provided Brian and everybody at San Diego, and from the things that I have, you go a long way to really trying to capture the coloring that's right for that book. And if you're doing that in the amount of time you're saying you're doing it in, then kudos to you, because from the moody atmosphere in Hawkman to the dark shadows in OMAC and the bright colors of Birds of Prey, I mean, you're really putting your mark on those books.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing that.
Thank you.
Do you have any favorite colorists of your own, that guys that you admire or looked up to or strive to be as good as historically?
Definitely. I think it falls into a couple of categories. But, I grew up reading a lot of stuff that was Adrian Roy colored, and someone used the pen name Roy G. Biv. I don't know who that person really was, but I remember seeing that earlier on.
That was the Rainbow Raider. No, just kidding.
And then I think the first digital comic that I saw, digitally colored, was Akira, and Steve Olive and his people had done that using some sort of proprietary vector coloring software back in the day, and it was the first time you had seen a linear gradient or a radial gradient or any of those type of things, and it just totally blew my mind. And I think I was like, wow, this really changes the game. And those types of people really influenced me in both, the types of color choices that I think are good and the technology as far as, how to use the software.
Cool.
Why does I'm going to get her name wrong, Laura Dupree? Why does she win all the awards all the time? It's just because that's the name that everybody knows.
Well, Laura's a fantastic colorist. When I first got into the business, she was, already sort of established and rising to the top quickly. I think she has a really good sensibility about color choice and about how to handle the characters in different situations that they're in. And I think she also has a luxury that a lot of colorists don't have, and that a lot of her projects, when she was at Wildstorm and at CrossGen, she was right there kind of in the bullpen with the penciler and with the inker and with the writer. And I know from my own experience that, even if I'm lucky enough to get the email address or the phone number of the writer or the penciler, the more closely you can work with those people, the better results, you can turn out to your editor.
Cool.
I'll just share with you my only story of witnessing coloring in progress, and that was just this year at San Diego. I was at Sergio Aragones's table, and Tom Luth was there, and he was coloring a sketch that Sergio had done, and he had his watercolors out, and the man moved with such precision and speed that you never ever would have seemed possible, especially since he was using watercolor, which to me, I don't know how anyone ever accomplishes anything with watercolor. I just get big blotches of color on paper, and there's a guy, and I saw that, and I actually saw that, I think the same day maybe I had talked to you, or I don't remember, but it was just like, oh my goodness, these guys are truly skilled professionals, because there's no way I could ever do that.
Yeah, and Tom is a fantastic colorist, and I think there's like two sets of skills. I know my friends that are pencilers, the way they approach a piece of art is kind of different from the way I would approach it, or some of the other colorists I know. And I tend to talk about people who draw brushy, like if you're painting, and people who draw these like smooth contour lines. And I think that the best comics sometimes come when you get one of each of those type of people together, and then they can bring a really nice polished product to the fans.
When you're doing a book, Brian, do you always get the script along with the art, or is that something that only comes every so often? Or
occasionally it either won't come or you'll have to really beg for it. But it seems like now, it's pretty steady that they're like, yeah, of course you need the script.
Well, yeah, because you got to establish the mood, what the writer's trying to,
Right.
portray in the book.
What's more frequent is that the script won't necessarily say what the time of day is supposed to be, or it's maybe a partial script or something like that. And so, then you're, hey, is it nighttime? Is it daytime? And these things, they should have affected the penciler, but maybe they didn't. And then when it falls into my lap, it becomes a serious, decision where you have to know.
Cool. Well, anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah.
You ever take a black and white book and just pull out your crayons and just go crazy?
I think, especially coming up from small press comics, there's tons of black and white stuff that I would get my hands on and want to throw down some color on just to see what it would look like, or, that type of thing. So for me, it's just kind of looking at the world around me and the light and the shadow and how it all works together. And then when that art comes, you just go, hey, what would this look like? Or what if I did it like this? Or, that kind of thing.
Cool.
That's one of the ways I like to practice. I take stuff and one of the ways my favorite ways, I used to take my old covers from like the 60s and 70s or even early 80s of comics that I really enjoyed, and I would scan them in and then try to get rid of all the cover and just get the black and white and then color it in how I would color it in, and using new techniques, because of course the techniques back then were totally different. And,
Right.
And it's neat to see, that old stuff come out and have a whole new flair. You can see how it dramatically changes that same piece of artwork just because of the way, the techniques and what you had available at the time. So it's always fun to do.
Cool.
Well, you want to give everybody your URL?
Definitely. If you are not familiar with hi-fi color design, it's www.hifidesign.com. That's HIFIDESIGN.com. Got a few samples of our work up there, and feel free to check it out. Email us, whatever. We'd like to hear back from our fans.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for your time. I think we all learned something today, and hopefully the audience will have a new interest in the color of comics. Since basically they began, they were always color except for the small press stuff, and so if you took it away from them, they would be shocked. So we do appreciate your hard work.
Yeah, we hope to give you a little RES. I can't even spell right now. Respect. Christ. Time to go to bed.
One step closer to getting that recognition of the Miller name on the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little respect.
And not just Frank's name.
Right.
Well, thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure.
Hey, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks again, and keep up the great work. The show's awesome.
Oh,
Thanks.
thanks very much.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, I guess we can.
Yeah,
That was cool.
that was.
Yeah. It is interesting to know because, if you're not accustomed, like you said, Brian, all these years you've been reading books and you just don't really pay attention. You don't really see what the process does for the book. You really don't pay attention to how certain things do it. But it is a lot of work to do. It's a lot
and
of...
he's talking about days, not even sometimes days.
Well,
And,
if he
that's
says it's a
insane.
pleasure when he can have
10 days.
10 days to do a
Yeah.
book, that means it's 22 pages. So he's doing 2.2 pages a day,
At least.
and that's on a good week when he's got 10 days.
Right.
I'm not saying if he has 10 days, he doesn't have 10
right. No, that's what I'm
days.
saying.
Yeah.
So that's just
He's and looking at a computer that long,
It
bog-
is.
boggles your eyes,
It
and
is.
it's like. I
And like
can't
he said,
imagine.
it's not just being an artist, it's having a mindset because it's mental discipline and being able to sit there and do that. I mean, I know for myself, I get wrapped up in what I'm doing. I could be there for hours and not even feel
Right.
like it. But there's other times, like when, that's why I said, when you get a project that you may not, something you really are motivated to do, but it's a job to do, and you're sitting there going like, and you got to really push yourself through it.
Yeah. I mean,
When
like I think about like what you said about scanning covers in, and every now and then I'll scan an image in that I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. I want that in my computer, and then I go, let me dabble with it, and I go, okay, red, yeah, there's red. Okay, boom, you put it on, it goes, oh, it doesn't look right. So here's a guy who knows all the variations of red, and he's got to determine which red is going to be right on Superman's cape. Whereas I put it in, and I'm like, well, that's kind of sort of okay, that's good. Boop, next, and I can't imagine. And he's got. And plus, he knows so much more as a colorist, of what you can do with tints and shades and
Right.
blurs and all that stuff. And all the choices, when you have all those choices, I can imagine that takes time, too. So for him to do the stuff that he's doing, for any colorist to do the stuff that they're doing, that's, like you said, it gives a whole new appreciation of what their job really is.
And it is pretty much the standard because the first professional I've worked with was Chris Sotomayor, who does a lot of books, both for Marvel and DC. And I know with talking with him and being on his message board for the past few years, it's the same process. He still gets stuff handed to him, 2 days, and you got to do how many pages, and it happens all the time where there's somebody can't complete a project and they need it done, and he'll come on and step in and help it out, or if it's something that's just again the deadline, and that seems to be a precedent in no matter what industry you're
Right.
in with the deadline aspect of it.
Right.
I mean, I can reflect with that with me being in construction because doing the finish work, all the trim work and cabinetry and stuff, we're the last people into place, and we
Editing
had the
in
least
movies.
amount of time to do it.
Editing in movies.
Exactly.
Sometimes they're up to the last day when they have to ship that movie reel out, and
So it's every aspect of it when
Yeah.
you really look at it. The people that really put the polish on the product are the last ones and the least amount of time to deal with it. So when you look at it that way, it really does put a lot of respect into what they do and what they add to the industry and the medium itself. It is an art form.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. He's got a section on his website where he shows some pages from, I think the first section is Birds of Prey, and he shows like 5 different pages, and he has several paragraphs discussing each page and the things he took into consideration when he was selecting the colors or the shadows or the the overall feel, and he's putting a lot of thought into why this page has like a blue tint, because it's nighttime. And there was the characters are having a conversation, which shows some moodiness, and so he chooses the blue because it's kind of sad or depressing as opposed to a brighter color. It's like I never thought about that. I just thought, oh, he's wearing black pants and a green shirt, and okay, that's nice. Now it's like, wow, every detail of that whole page has an effect because of the colorist.
Well, he mentioned Adrienne Roy, and I beamed because she was the colorist on New Teen Titans back in the 80s. So he mentioned that. And I do remember every now and then you'd get, even George Perez would say something like, you notice me trying to figure out how to say the name there for a second?
He stopped for a second.
He, in one of his interviews in some book, he was like, I drew this thing, and I didn't expect the guy in the page to have a green suit, and so it's like, and you're right, sometimes the coloring choices were shocking. However, there were some other ones later on in that run that especially that Who Is Donna Troy, where it was very moody and things like that, where the color did stick out. Mm-hmm. And when you look at that newsprint coloring, that's all flat, and it's all flat, and they just have to do shadings, but you can tell where the shading, where the next grade of the color comes in. It doesn't blend too well, but that I do remember that coloring standing out.
Yeah, it is. It's. I know in my own experience dealing with coloring a page or something, I always used to approach it and like I try to be as realistic as possible without being, I'm not painting, Picasso's here, but I try to make it look as real as possible. And that's just the way I approach it.
Right.
But when you get into it and looking at setting a mood and stuff, that's when you can get into a page where the whole page, every panel is tones of a certain color. And that's where you get into the whole look of it as, setting a mood. And it's just as important to set a mood with the color as it is doing with the art and
cool.
And everything else. Every aspect. Just like a movie. You could have a scene that is done in a movie and, it could be raining outside.
Right.
And, people don't even realize, or it's snowing. But there's a reason why it's doing it. It adds to the scene. It adds to the mood. It adds to the theme. So everything has pertinence and has importance to each.
I remember watching the movie The Piano and just being blown away with some of the coloring. And all of a sudden the whole theater is filled with blue and grays and all that New Zealand stuff. So it's just awesome. Just awesome.
Yeah. Peter, you know what time it is. Let's see if we can't stump you today.
Time for a two down.
It's been happening.
Yeah, you've been really sucking it up lately. All right. This is a listener sent in one. It's from Matt McDonald in Durango, Colorado.
Oh, he sent one before.
Yeah, he says he's going to try again. So, question number 1, DC question. In the golden age of DC, the Justice Society of America had a counterpart, the Injustice Society of the world. Name the 6 members.
Well, I hope he has more than 6 because they've switched all over the place. I'm going to say Brainwave, Wizard, Vandal Savage,
Yes.
Icicle.
Yes. He doesn't have Icicle on the
Icicle's
list.
in there.
Well, just keep naming them.
Let me look at that picture.
He's not actually looking at a picture. He's imagining in his mind's eye.
Mental
There's a cover where they're like stabbing a map of the world and they're like dragging their blades through. Shade.
That's not on the list either.
Tigress or Huntress, one of the two. It's like a female.
That one's not on the list
No?
either. So far, you said Brainwave, Vandal Savage, and the Wizard.
Right. But I know Icicle's a part of that. Injustice Gang of the World. Sportsmaster.
Not on the list either.
Yeah, see, if you pull out the who's who, these characters are actually in. So I don't know what he's asking for. I don't know if he's asking for the original or just any. I mean, it's who does he have?
He has the Gambler.
Oh, yeah. The
Kenny
Gambler.
Rogers. Ooh.
He has Degaton.
Oh, how could I forget Perdegaton?
He's always there.
Yeah, he's
Jesus.
always in those.
And the
Solomon
Thinker.
Grundy? Oh, the Thinker. Yeah. Yeah, he may be right.
I think he's right.
So you
No,
got
he's right.
50,
I just-
50, so I
yeah.
guess that's half point.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what happens in the next.
Yeah,
one.
let's
All
see.
right.
We'll see.
Number 2, DC question. On the cover of Wonder Woman number 125, 3 men are fighting for Wonder Woman's hand in marriage. Who are they?
I'm going to say Steve, Trevor, Superman, and Batman.
All right. The answer's Steve Trevor, Merman, and Amoeba Man. But he has a note next to Steve Trevor. He says, he will not count as a half point too easy. So that means you got 0
Okay.
on that one, Peter.
All right.
Matt's on the ball.
Number 3, Marvel. In Exiles number 11,
Oh, boy.
the Exiles, in order to get some privacy at a nude beach, plot to send Morph away with Sunfire to go lingerie shopping. What lingerie shop do we see them in?
Fredericks of Hollywood.
The answer is Jorge's Thongs and Things.
That's a random question. That's a random
Yeah,
question.
that's pretty.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I
don't
kind
know.
of think that's pretty. Well,
I have to look at that in just because he wasn't specific about it. You know, he just said they had a counterpart, and those characters were in the Injustice Society.
well, if that's the case, if there's
Or
more than
Justice Gang.
6, that would be listed in like the who's who or a team. That if you would look up
right.
the
right.
Injustice, you know,
Right.
what would be listed there, that would you would they see to that.
Yeah.
But so then I think that would be worth giving yourself at least a half
half
a point for
point.
that. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
He'll probably argue that, and
That's my opinion.
We'll see.
Anyway.
What do you think, Jamie?
Yeah, because that last one was really, really specific. I mean, that was almost what color was the shade of, what color was the shade, Jesus. What shade of color was, his suit in this
Yeah.
panel. So, yeah. Yeah, I'll give you the half point on that one.
Cool.
I'm
That way you
trying
can hate
to-
us all.
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying. I'm not trying to dance.
No,
around it.
no.
I agree. I mean, that's a little.
He's going to try again. Just try again, man.
Just keep coming.
I have a Geek of the Day here. I'm just downloading it quick, so
Cool.
it should only take
It's audio.
a moment. Yes, an audio Geek of the Day, which we really love. It's
God,
so much
they're
better
so
than just
good.
reading
Yeah.
An
an
email,
email.
yeah.
This you get to hear them, the emotion that they put in. It's fun.
Plus, it's neat because you get the kind of. You always have that. With the people on the forum and stuff, I find that you always have a kind of a picture of what you think they might look like
Yeah.
or who they sound like,
Mhm.
and then you finally get to hear them, and it's kind of interesting.
Hey, let's ask the Hi-Fi Design. Did I earn that half point?
I don't know. Well, you with the 8-ball
I
doesn't
know.
have a very good team.
I need some light. Oh, it says positively.
There you go.
The
Yep.
Hi-Fi Design.
Cannot argue with the 8-ball.
There it is. Boom. Done.
All right, I have it queued up here. This is from Lee Goodman.
He's
which
also
in-
wrote in before, I think.
Yeah, incidentally, he
recognize
says, did you guys cause a run on the Daredevil book that you promoted for your book of the month? Because In Stock Trades is out of stock and on back order.
We did.
There you go.
Walking Dead is #1 right now.
I know, that's
That just
pretty
goes
cool.
to show.
Yep.
So somebody out there in the audience is actually paying attention and playing along at home, which is our whole objective with the Book of the Month
Right.
Club. right?
Exactly.
We love it when you play with yourself at home. Oh, I mean, play along at home. Play along at home. I'm sorry.
Okay, Matt. What's
Yeah.
that?
Crying
Well, I
an
figured
ass.
I was channeling Matt.
He was
today.
channeling his inner Matt.
Yes.
God help you.
Yeah. That's your. Sorry for you.
Okay, here we go. Lee's Geek of the Day.
Hello, Comic Geek Speak. My name is Lee Goodman, and I thought I'd give you my version of the Geek of the Day. You might like to know that you might call me a born-again comic geek. I used to be a huge comic fan in the 60s and 70s. Pretty much gave it up right after Speedy got hooked on heroin. I'm not sure if that was the defining moment for me, but somehow that sticks in my mind. and really wasn't looking at comic books again, except for picking up some special edition Babylon 5 comics, until the comic book movie started hitting. And around the time that we had X-Men and X-Men 2, I started looking back and figuring out what had happened to the comic book characters. And all of a sudden I realized the Flash was Barry. The Flash was Wally West. And the Green Lantern had changed. And what the hell were the Earth 2 characters doing with the Earth 1 characters? And I suddenly realized that something had happened in between the time I had last looked at comic books, and I finally figured it out, and that was the Crisis on Infinite Earths. After reading that and finally catching up, I decided that I'm sort of back into the fold again. I started with JLA trades, started in the middle, picked up one and started buying them in both directions, and hopefully I'll catch up to them all. Picked up the Quiver for Green Arrow, thought that was a wonderful piece of work, and now I'm back to being a Green Arrow fan. Green Arrow and Green Lantern used to be my favorites when I was a kid. And picking up Teen Titans and a few other books here and there, mostly DC, though I was a Marvel fan a long time ago. I do remember the original Fantastic Four, but I think things have changed so much I don't think I can keep up. One of the things you mentioned, that continuity is very good with DC Comics, and I think that's correct. It's just easier to take care of, easier to keep track of. So, just thought I'd let you know, Born Again Comic Geek, love the show. You do a great job. It's because you actually went to see the Fantastic Four movie, because like you guys, I thought it was going to suck. You guys went to see it. You liked it. I went to see it. I liked it. I thought it was a very, very enjoyable piece of work. On the other hand, I'm not sure it was a later review, but were talking about the Incredible Hulk movie, and I had never gone to see that at the theater, and I decided to buy the DVD and watch it at home. And there was a movie, in my opinion, that you could have just lopped off the first 3/4 of it and just got right to the Hulk action, because I had no interest in Bruce David Banner, whatever his name was for the movie. I had no interest about his father. It didn't seem to follow the storyline. But when the Hulk came out, and the Hulk started hopping, and the Hulk started jumping, that's when it was fun. So that's where I'm at this point. Again, thank you very much. Take care, guys. Bye.
Yeah, he says he was recording it on his iPad in the car. So.
Holy mackerel.
Hopefully he didn't hit anything at the end there. Geez.
Were they filming Twister there?
But that's weird. Two Born Again comic people in the same podcast.
And what a jump for him! I mean, from leaving the Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and then coming back on to the Kevin Smith. Was it Phil Hester?
Yeah.
Yeah, Phil Hester.
Green Arrow again. What a jump!
I mean, he missed all the goodness that was the 80s.
Well, he missed. Well, I mean, if you look in Green Arrow, you're talking to Mike Grell, the Longbow Hunter, and,
right.
and stuff like that, which was good stuff.
But if you think about it, the reason he said he left is because of the Speedy thing. So maybe he didn't want that realism interjected into his comics, and that Mike Grell was certainly very socially relevant. To fighting drug gangs and things like that. But then when you get to the Kevin Smith Green Arrow, boom, you're back into superheroes. So. Maybe it's good that he.
So it worked well for him to do what he did when he did.
Thanks, Lee. That was great.
All right, we have time to do a couple of listener emails.
Always have time.
Okay.
This is this one. It says, "Hello all. This is Britoman from Kamekikos."
Hola.
Hola.
¿Cómo está? That's it from my Spanish.
¿Qué pasó, Britoman? It says, I really enjoyed hearing about Star Blazers in episode 35. I have the first season on VHS. I was a real big fan when it was originally aired here in El Salvador a long, long time ago. So bad that I bought from Amazon the American version. The editing really kills the storyline. You can ask Tikoman. He really hated it, and we laugh a lot when, at the end, the Yamato is going to be hit with a huge blast. Every chance to escape is lost. Everyone is already crying and holding on to each other, saying a prayer. Then Sandor, eating a sandwich in his desk, just moves a finger, flips a lame switch, saving the day with a shield built with reflex technology who nobody knows about. And he goes back to his sandwich. The scene is followed closely in our minds for the one where the space mine follows and exploded in Sandor's face. I really believe he was dead for sure, but in the very next scene he just said, "That was a narrow escape," and you never know the details of the escape. Besides that, for me, Star Blazers is an old but very good anime. I really love the design of the Yamato. I haven't seen the other seasons. I guess they're even better. Keep up the good work, Britoman. So Alex should have
Come
been here
on.
for that one.
Love the. How can you? Yeah, that's what we know, though. We know the American Star Blazers.
I guess.
So.
Yeah.
Hey, he. I forgot. They're in El Salvador. One of my friends is going to El Salvador to work with. I don't even remember, like schools. I guess to teach, down there. And El Salvador can't be that big. Her name is Megan. She's gorgeous. So if you run into her, Tico man, Brito man. Tell her Peter said
American babe. Are you the hot American babe that Peter told me was coming down here? Hola.
Okay. This one is from Sam Dunham. You mentioned some good suggestions for some comics that women might like, but you missed, in my humble opinion, one of the best. Sam Keith's The Max. It might be difficult to find now, but it's well worth looking for it. It was published by Image, but was one of the few Image books that fell outside the normal image. The women in the Max were rendered far more realistically than in most mainstream books, and the story was well off the beaten path too. My wife is not much of a comics person, a little Sandman here and there, but the Max was one of her favorites. Keep up the good work, Sam. I love the Max.
See, I didn't read the Max, but what I did was I watched it when it was on MTV, and that's what got me into it. I was like, you know what, this is kind of cool, and then I went back and read them. So
yeah,
Max, one of those books that I would read it, and when I would understand it, I would get real scared because it was like one of those books I never thought anybody but Sam Keith was meant to understand exactly what was going on in it. But it was good. You're right. Yeah, that's one we did miss.
Good suggestion.
he still does an occasional miniseries now and again, and he is right about his women. He draws them with major hips usually, like they're not supermodels, that's for sure. All right, here's one from Chris Vaccaro. Just listen to the episode from San Diego. The guards, it turns out, are semi-geeks and let me use the desktop here to listen. Maybe I should explain this somewhat. Work denied my time off for San Diego. After I book my ticket and I book my room, after I get all pumped up and brag to everyone who will listen about my trip, Monday they deny me. I promptly assaulted the soulless winch. Winch, or does he mean witch? The hospital security was actually rather gentle. Aside from the hemostats that had to be removed from my colon, I'm fine. The last couple of days have been spent repelling advances from my cellmate, a Mr. William Robert Ledbetter, insert dueling banjo sound clip here. My only weapon is the copy of Crisis that the surgeons were unable to remove from my grip. Regretfully, my supervisor's blood has stained quite a few of the pages. This only gives me an excuse to get that absolute edition now anyway. I'm terribly jealous. At least the pain meds are good. It says, on a more serious note, I am so sorry to hear of Jamie's condition. My own mother was diagnosed with the palsy, so I know how frustrating a condition it can be. Early medication, though, has left her symptomless and fully recovered after only a few months. Send the shiznit my concerns and sympathy. Pips up, hose down, playa. Keep hustling. You heard me.
Holla back.
He says, now I know someone there has a digital camera, and I fully expect to see pics from the con. By the way, I promised William Robert a copy of the Bo Jeffries saga. If you could pick up a copy, it might spare my already perforated bowels a night of sodomy.
Oops.
What the hell does that mean?
He wanted you to pick something up at San Diego.
And
we're just getting to the email.
Yeah, we're just reading. Yeah, the email was sent on July 15th. It is now August 15th.
Ouch.
Or 16th. Is it the
15th?
No, it's 15.
Yeah, so it's only been a month.
Jeez. Give a plug to his podcast that he does. Doesn't he? He's the
Chris Vaccaro?
Oh no, I'm thinking of Chris the Collected. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
Just for everybody out there, I'm getting much better. I'm feeling much better now.
Yeah.
So it's coming along nicely.
No, Chris actually ordered a T-shirt from us, and I rushed it out to him so he could get it, so he could wear it to San Diego, and then he finds out he couldn't go to. That sucks.
Oh, that sucks.
It really sucks.
Yeah, I don't know what that feels like at all.
If you're gonna hit something, use like Watchmen. That's a little heavier than Crisis.
From Hell.
I was going
From
to say,
Hell
From
would be a
Hell would be
great
the ultimate
Anything
weapon.
Cerebus.
The ultimate nullifier.
I was reading Wizard, and they talked about Warren Ellis's his that trilogy he's doing, Ultimate Nightmare, Ultimate Secret, and now I can't. Should I guess is it out?
No, because remember,
Well, it is.
Ultimate Secret It still has 2 issues to go yet.
But Ultimate Nightmare reveals what the thing is at the end, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and they even call it what it is.
Right.
They say
Right,
Ultimate Nightmare,
Yeah.
the story of blah.
You can say it.
Okay, I'm going to say it. I'm sorry if you haven't read it, but you know what? It's not all that great anyway. But anyway, it's just my opinion. He was talking about, because you just said the Ultimate Nullifier. He goes, what are they going to do this time? Bring out the Ultimate Nullifier? And it just made me laugh.
All right, here's another one from Damien Waldbrunn. When iTunes started carrying podcasts, I decided to try them, and as fate would have it, I chose yours. Honestly, wow, I have found the promised land. I know the geek subculture, of which I am a proud and vocal member, has been given the spotlight due to Hollywood's discovery that kids' funny books were not only entertaining but could actually turn a profit. As such, everybody seems to be talking comics these days. But to actually be able to listen to a brain trust such as this, people who don't just regurgitate excerpts from the latest issue of Wizard, but actually read what they discuss and defend their positions, that is sweet cake. I plan not only to listen, but to participate. Expect more to come. Oh, thanks, Damien.
Cool.
That's cool.
We are a brain trust now.
Yeah, we
I
went
feel-
from a Jedi Council to a brain trust.
Wow,
And
we're
it's
really
sweet
moving-
cake.
Yeah, sweet cake.
Sweet Christmas. Sweet
He has
cake.
provided something else. I can't remember exactly what, but he sent something.
I think
in.
he's on our board, Realmer X.
Yeah,
Is
and
he
he
in?
also, I'm sure he did a Stump the Rios or something. So
Cool. Yeah. Cool. So what time we at? I think
I have no idea. You wanna
we'll do
or
one
two
more.
Yeah.
We'll do one more. Here. What the hell? We got to get through these sooner or later. Okay. This one from Wesley Harp. Hi guys. First off, let me say I really enjoy your podcast. I just came across it a few days ago. How or where, I'm not sure. You're my favorite new podcast. I've doubled the number regularly listened to now. I've always enjoyed cartoons that were based off comics. X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, Justice League, Teen Titans. But I never was into comics. Part of the reason was because when I was younger I didn't have any money to buy them. And now since I'm older, because I know if I get into comics I won't have money for anything else. My brother-in-law is a big comic fan. And through letting me borrow various trade paperbacks has finally convinced me to get into comics. So far I've mainly read some Batman, Superman. Haven't gotten the third one yet. Superman, Death of, World Without, and Return of. And have just gotten a few JLA trades in Kingdom Come. Without a local comic store, I've been limited to my local Books A Million and Amazon, and as such was mostly planning on getting just trades, although I did pick up Green Lantern #1 at Books A Million. With such an enormous number of different comics and all the different storylines and such, where do you start? Got any tips for a new comic fanatic? Keep up the great work, Wes. Well, I will point you to the same place we point everyone with that question is to our forum, which you can find through our blog at comicgeekspeak.blogspot.com. And one of the very first stickies at the top of the page is a list that Peter has compiled of essential comic reads. And we cover Marvel, DC, Independence, everything there that we think. And we update it whenever we think of something else we should add to the list. And it's all broken down into different categories and stuff. So you look through there, and with anything on that list, you can't go wrong.
Yep.
So, thank you, Wes.
Way to chime in there, Jamie.
Hey.
Mr. Punctuation.
He's not the best commentator in the league for nothing.
Well, I think that's enough for one episode. What do you think?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
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 Yeah.
Sweet cake.
Sweet
Woot,
cake.
woot. We got all these sweet cake.
Yeah,
woot, woot.
All right. Well, if you want to send us an email, a Stump the Rios, or a comment, or a Geek of the Day, send it to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. Also, you can visit our blog at comicgeekspeak.blogspot.com. For more information about this and other comic podcasts, you can go to comicspodcast.com. Big thanks to Bob at GameCircuit.net for hosting the files, without which this would not be possible. Please vote for us at Podcast Alley and subscribe to us using iTunes. And if you would like a t-shirt, you can get one for only $10, including postage, from our blog. And a big thanks to Brian Miller for joining us today. And check out his website at www.hifidesign.com.
And don't forget his challenge.
Yes.
The first 5 people to donate $20 or more will get A lot of cool swag from Hi-Fi, whatever the rest of that thing is.
Hi-Fi Design.
Design.
Yes, donate $20 for my bike ride that benefits MS Society. It's not like donate $20 to the show.
Well, or you could do that too.
All right. Well, once again, we're brought to you in conjunction with WorldFamousComics.com, and as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.